best thing about playing Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is that it makes me feel over-the-top powerful without sacrificing the fear of defeat. It's got great free-flowing combat and a good-sized, good-looking open-world map full of Lord of the Rings lore to find. But what makes it special is what's going on in the background, an intriguing hierarchy of enemies that gives every victory and defeat extra meaning. A brief and shocking opening scene sets a dark and brutal tone as Talion, a former ranger of Gondor, is ritually executed along with his family. Talion's spirit is then bound to an amnesiac elf ghost and returned to Middle-earth for vengeance against Sauron's forces. It's a story that doesn't make total sense for hardcore Tolkien scholars, but it is well acted.
Mordor.
Now do you believe me, Ranger?
What has happened to me?
You are banished from death.
It makes decent use of Gollum, and there are a couple of memorable new characters. The plot does a fair job of explaining why Talion has such sweet supernatural powers with his sword, dagger, and bow. Much like in the Batman Arkham games, you can stealthily pick off enemies one at a time, or dive headfirst into a brawl with dozens of opponents and beat the crap out of them with a smoothly animated series of attacks and counters. Unlike Batman, of course, Mordor has involved these great, gory animations. It feels as easy to acrobatically slaughter Uruks as it looks for Legolas in Peter Jackson's movies, and it's more fun to do than it is to watch. Sword combat feels pretty much just as good here as brawling does in Batman, which is to say it's amazing. It's a bit more forgiving, in that if you push the counter button, Talion will drop whatever he's doing and counter instantly. It's extremely responsive. A recharging time-slowing power makes scoring a couple of headshots with the bow easy, whether in stealth or in the heat of battle. And even though the stealth is pretty basic, it's great to have the option to thin the herd a bit before they even know you're there. What sets Mordor's combat apart from Batman is that it's really easy to get into trouble early on. Especially if you let the Uruks raise the alarm in one of their strongholds, you can quickly get overwhelmed by more enemies than you can hope to handle. Things got a lot easier a few hours in when I'd leveled up and unlocked more of Talion's skill tree. Then I could build up combos quicker and execute 2 enemies for the price of 1. And even fight mounted on a Rancor like Graud. And what's really cool about Mordor is that whether you win or lose these fights, something interesting happens. If you kill an Uruk captain, he drops a rune that can be slotted into one of your weapons for bonuses. If any Uruk kills you, even if he's some random grunt, he levels up and earns new abilities and some cooler armor. Maybe he gets promoted up the chain of command. You'll definitely run into him again later to settle the score. And you'll have a new introduction taunt about his victory when you meet. It makes each death feel meaningful.
You're back! I think you'll do better than last time?
Looks like I found another little animal to skin. Still alive.
Even though the hierarchy is a pretty simple system once you understand what it's doing, and you realize that these Uruk captains aren't actually roaming the map in real time, it's great to play with. Uruks have an internal power struggle for rank, and you can interrupt their duels, feasts, hunts, and more to pick fights and kill off Uruk captains, and ultimately the powerful war chiefs. Each captain has his own randomized strengths and vulnerabilities, so each fight is at least a little different. I ran into a couple of guys who seemed invulnerable to almost everything, which was a little annoying, but eventually they all went down. In the second act, you go to a refreshingly green-looking area of Mordor, where Talion and his ghost buddies suddenly realize that he can mind control Uruks and turn them against each other. That's even more fun, because it gives you the option to either kill a captain for a rune reward, or control him and sick him on one of his former allies. Taking an Uruk alive can be trickier than just lopping off his head though, so it's more challenging to accomplish the new goal of mind controlling 5 war chiefs. I love how you have the option to mind control a war chief's lieutenants, then kill the war chief and watch your minion become the new war chief. I did notice that the mind control visual effect caused some slowdown in the PlayStation 4 version, but it didn't interfere much with combat. Charging through the decent but less exciting story missions would probably take around 12 hours, but the goal of killing or dominating the war chiefs is much more time consuming. I spent around 25 hours to reach the end, and there's still a lot of challenging side missions based around testing sword, bow, and dagger skills left to do. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor stands out from other open-world action games by putting a great new layer on top of the trail that Batman blazed. I was surprised by how well it integrates its excellent combat with rewarding feedback and progression not just for me, but also my enemies. I've had many more memorable and unpredictable battles with its randomized war chiefs and captains than I did with the scripted campaign missions, and I expect those to keep on coming. For more on Shadow of Mordor, stick with IGN.